They found my Bible at 3:47 in the morning. I know the exact time because I was staring at the clock on my bedroom wall when I heard my bedroom door slam open. My father stood in the doorway, backlit by the harsh hallway lights of our palace wing, and in his hand, trembling with rage, was the small leather book I had hidden inside the false bottom of my jewelry box. The book that would either kill me or set me free. But let me take you back. Let me show you how a Saudi princess, draped in diamonds, drowning in silk, locked behind golden bars, found herself holding a death warrant written in her father's handwriting. Because my story doesn't start with that book. It starts 23 years earlier, in a delivery room in Riyadh, when I took my first breath and became my father's greatest disappointment. I was born female. My name is Noor, it means light in Arabic, but there was nothing bright about my existence. I grew up in a palace that looked like paradise and felt like a tomb. 42 rooms. 17 bathrooms. Marble imported from Italy that stayed cold no matter how hot the desert sun burned outside. I remember being 6 years old, running through those corridors in my bare feet, and my mother screaming at me to stop because princesses don't run. Princesses don't laugh too loud. Princesses don't ask questions. Princesses don't exist, really. Not as real people. We're just decorations. Expensive ones. You see these palaces on Instagram, the gold faucets, the crystal chandeliers, the cars that cost more than most people make in a lifetime, and you think we're blessed. You think we're lucky. Let me tell you what you don't see. The camera is in every corner, watching. The male guardians who control whether you can leave your room, let alone your country. The absolute, suffocating silence that fills those marble halls because nobody dares speak the truth. I had everything money could buy. And I had nothing that mattered. My father is a senior member of the royal family. Not the king, but close enough to taste that power. Close enough to be dangerous. When I was young, maybe 4 or 5, I used to think he was the most handsome man in the world. His thobe was always perfectly white, his beard precisely trimmed, his cologne, oud mixed with amber, so strong it announced his presence before he entered a room. I would wait by the doorway of his study, hoping he would notice me. Hoping he would smile. He never did. His eyes. I'll never forget his eyes. Black, like looking into a well where someone drowned and nobody bothered to fish out the body. When he looked at me, on the rare occasions he bothered to look at me at all, I felt myself disappearing. Becoming less. Becoming nothing. Girls, he told my mother once, and I was hiding behind the door listening, are a burden we bear until we can pass them to another man. The only question is how much shame they'll bring us before we manage it. I was 7 when I heard that. I didn't cry. I had already learned that tears were weaknesses, and weaknesses got you beaten or married off or worse. So I went back to my room, my cage with silk sheets, and I stared at the ceiling and wondered what I had done wrong. What sin I had committed by being born. If you're watching this, and you've never felt that, thank God. Thank Jesus. Because that kind of rejection from your own father doesn't just hurt. It hollows you out. It makes you believe the lie that you're worthless, that you're a mistake, that your existence is an inconvenience to everyone who has to tolerate you. I believed that lie for 16 years. I had tutors, of course, women who came to teach me Arabic literature, Islamic studies, French, even piano. But I was never allowed to go to a real school. Never allowed to sit in a classroom with other girls, to make real friends, to feel normal. My world was the palace. My companions were my 3 younger sisters, who learned early that obedience kept you safe. They became small, quiet, invisible. I tried. I really did. But something inside me kept asking questions I wasn't supposed to ask. Why did my brothers get to study abroad while we stayed locked inside? Why did Allah create me female if being female was such a curse? Why did my prayers feel like I was talking to the ceiling? The first crack in my perfect facade came 3 weeks after my 16th birthday. My mother came into my room wearing her black abaya, her face pale beneath her hijab. She sat on the edge of my bed, and my mother never sat on my bed. She barely touched me, and she said 4 words that stopped my heart. "Your father has decided." I knew what that meant. Every girl in Saudi Arabia knows what that means. He had found my husband. Who? I whispered. My voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Her hands twisted in her lap, and I could see they were shaking. When my mother was scared, that meant something truly terrible was coming. "Your stepbrother," she finally said. "Khalid." The room tilted. The air disappeared from my lungs. I thought I would vomit right there on my silk duvet. Khalid. My father's son from his second wife. 20 years older than me. A man I had watched grow into something twisted and cruel, who looked at me during family gatherings with eyes that made my skin crawl, who once cornered me in the hallway and whispered what he would do to me when I became his. I was 16. He was 36. And my father had just sold me to him like livestock. "Ummi, please," I started, but she stood up quickly, her abaya swirling around her ankles. "The engagement is announced. The wedding is in 4 months. Your father will not change his mind. Don't." Her voice cracked. "Don't make this harder than it has to be, Noor. Obey. Survive. That's all we can do." She left. The door closed. And I lay there on my bed, on my golden cage that suddenly felt like a coffin, and I realized something that would change everything. I didn't want to survive anymore. I wanted to live. And I had no idea how. I need you to understand something about Khalid. He wasn't just cruel. Cruelty can be simple, a slap, an insult, a moment of violence. What Khalid possessed was something far worse. He was calculated, patient. He enjoyed watching fear grow in people's eyes the way a gardener enjoys watching flowers bloom. And he had been watching me bloom into that fear for years. The first time he touched me, I was 12. It was during Eid celebrations at the palace. The men and women were separated, as always, but Khalid had walked into the women's section, something only close male relatives could do, and he had placed his hand on my shoulder. Just rested it there while he spoke to my mother about something meaningless. His thumb moved in small circles against my collarbone. Back and forth. Back and forth. I froze like a rabbit sensing a wolf. When he finally moved away, his fingers trailed across the back of my neck. My mother saw. She said nothing. That's when I learned that even mothers can't protect you when the predator is part of the family. When refusing him would bring shame. When saying no isn't an option you're allowed to have. Over the years, Khalid made sure I knew I belonged to him long before the contracts were signed. A whisper in passing, "You're growing beautiful, little Noor. I'm a patient man." A text message on my carefully monitored phone, "Soon." Once, he sent me a gift, a diamond necklace so expensive it felt like a chain, with a note that said, "For my future wife. Wear it and think of me." I never wore it. I buried it at the bottom of my drawer beneath scarves I never used, but even hidden, I could feel it there. Claiming me. Marking me. The formal engagement announcement happened on a Thursday evening. I remember because Thursday nights in Riyadh always smelled like grilled meat from the weekend cookouts people were preparing. The palace dining hall had been decorated with white roses and gold ribbons. 75 guests from various branches of the royal family filled the space, their voices echoing off the high ceilings, their laughter sharp and meaningless. I wore emerald green silk, the color Khalid had requested. My hands were decorated with fresh henna in intricate patterns that looked like beautiful prison bars. My mother had lined my eyes with kohl so thick I looked like I was already mourning. Maybe I was. "Smile," my sister Lena whispered as we walked into the hall. She was 13, still young enough to think obedience would save her. "It's a happy day." "For who?" I whispered back. She didn't answer. The women's section was separated from the men's by an ornate screen. We could hear them but not see them clearly. I could hear my father's voice, deep and authoritative, welcoming guests. I could hear Khalid's laugh, oily and satisfied. The sound made my stomach turn. Then the moment came. My mother stood, which meant I had to stand. She walked toward the screen divider, which meant I had to follow. My legs felt like they were filled with sand. Each step took enormous effort. They brought me to a chair position near the divider, close enough that the men could see my silhouette, my outline, could confirm that I was present and compliant. My father's voice boomed through the hall. "Tonight, we celebrate the union of two families, bound by blood and strengthened by marriage. My daughter, Noor bint Abdullah," even my name sounded like a possession when he said it, "will be joined to my honored son, Khalid bin Abdullah, in 4 months' time." "Inshallah." "Inshallah," the crowd echoed. "If God wills it." But what if I didn't will it? What if God didn't will it? Did anyone care? Through the screen, I could see Khalid's shadow stand. He was a big man, tall, broad-shouldered, the kind of presence that takes up space and demands submission. When he spoke, his voice was smooth, rehearsed, designed to sound humble while broadcasting ownership. "I am honored to accept the responsibility of this blessed union. Noor will be cared for, protected, and guided as a proper wife should be. She will bring honor to our family, inshallah. And she will give me many sons. Many sons. Not we will build a life together. Not I will cherish her. Many sons. That's what I was for. A womb. A vessel. A thing that produces male heirs and then becomes invisible." The women around me made those high-pitched ululation sounds, zagarit, that signify celebration. The sound felt like knives in my ears. My mother squeezed my hand so hard I lost feeling in my fingers. Whether she was trying to comfort me or warn me to keep my face neutral, I didn't know. The party continued for 3 more hours. I sat in that chair, my face arranged in what I hoped looked like modest happiness, while aunts and cousins and women I'd never met congratulated me. They told me how lucky I was. How blessed. How Khalid was such a good man, so successful, so generous. One woman, my father's third wife's sister, a woman with eyes like a snake, leaned close and whispered, "He's strong, that one. You'll need to be obedient, girl. Men like that don't tolerate rebellion." She wasn't warning me. She was threatening me. When the party finally ended and the guests left, I walked back to my room on legs that barely held me. I closed the door, locked it, not that locks meant anything in this house, and I collapsed on the floor. Not on my bed. The floor. Cool marble against my burning cheek. I didn't cry. I was beyond tears. I just lay there, staring at nothing, and I felt myself splitting into two people. There was the Noor that everyone saw, the obedient princess, the dutiful daughter, the compliant bride-to-be. And then there was the real Noor, the one screaming inside this body, trapped and suffocating and desperate. That night, I prayed like I had never prayed before. I got up at 2 a.m., the time they say prayers are most powerful, and I performed wudu, the ritual washing. I put on my prayer clothes. I unrolled my prayer mat facing Mecca. And I prostrated myself on the ground, my forehead pressing into the soft fabric, and I begged, "Allah, please. Please. I have been faithful. I have obeyed. I have followed every rule, memorized every surah, fasted every Ramadan. Please don't let this happen. Please send someone to save me. Please give Baba a change of heart. Please make Khalid disappear. Please, please, please." I stayed there for an hour, repeating the same desperate pleas over and over until my voice was hoarse and my knees ached and my forehead was red from pressing into the mat. Nothing. No peace. No answer. No warmth. No presence. Just silence. Cold, indifferent silence. I had prayed to Allah my entire life, but that night I realized something that terrified me. I had never felt him. Not once. Not ever. It was always just me, talking to the ceiling, hoping someone was listening. What if nobody was? 3 days after the engagement announcement, Khalid came to visit. He brought gifts, gold jewelry, expensive perfumes, a Quran bound in white leather with my new name already engraved on it, Noor bint Abdullah, wife of Khalid bin Abdullah. Wife. Like it was already done. My mother and 2 of my aunts sat in the room as chaperones. We weren't allowed to be alone, not yet, but their presence didn't make me feel safer. Khalid sat across from me, his eyes moving over my body like hands I couldn't slap away. "You look thin," he said. His voice was casual, almost kind. That's what made him so dangerous. "Are you eating properly? You'll need strength for married life." The way he paused before married life made bile rise in my throat. "I eat enough," I said quietly, my eyes on my lap. "Look at me when I speak to you." My eyes snapped up. His face was smiling, but his eyes weren't. They were flat. Dead. My father's eyes. "Better," he said. "Obedience looks beautiful on you, Noor. I'm going to enjoy teaching you how to perfect it." My aunt giggled nervously. My mother said nothing. "I've been waiting for you for a long time," Khalid continued, leaning forward slightly. "Did you know that? I told your father 6 years ago that I wanted you. But he said you were too young. that I needed to be patient. He smiled, and his teeth were too white, too perfect. I can be very patient when the prize is worth it. 6 years ago. I was 10 years old. He had wanted me since I was 10. I thought I would be sick right there on the Persian rug. The wedding will be beautiful, he continued. I've already chosen your dress. White and gold. You'll look like an angel. My angel. He reached across the space between us and touched my hand. His palm was hot and damp. We're going to be very happy together, Noor. As long as you remember your place. That night, alone in my room, I stopped praying. What was the point? Allah wasn't listening. Or he was listening and didn't care. Or, worst of all, maybe this was his will. Maybe this nightmare was exactly what he wanted for me. If that was true, then I didn't want his paradise. I'd rather burn. I stood at my window, looking out at the lights of Riyadh sprawling beneath the palace walls, and I made a decision: I would not marry Khalid. I didn't know how I would stop it. I didn't know what escape could possibly look like for a princess in a golden cage. But I knew, with absolute certainty, that I would rather die free than live as his possession. I just didn't know yet that someone was already planning my rescue. Someone I hadn't even met. Someone whose name I'd been taught to curse my entire life. 107 days until the wedding. I started counting them like a prisoner counts days until execution. I carved tiny marks into the inside of my closet door where no one would see, little scratches in the expensive wood that probably cost more than most people's homes. Each mark was a day closer to becoming Khalid's property. Each mark was a day that Allah remained silent. Have you ever prayed to a God who doesn't answer? Not once. Not ever. Not even with a whisper of comfort or a moment of peace. It's not like being ignored by a person. You can see a person, confront them, demand to know why they won't respond. But praying to silence, it's like screaming into a void and slowly realizing the void might be empty. That you might be completely, terrifyingly alone in the universe. That's what broke me. Not Khalid. Not my father. Not even the wedding looming like a death sentence. It was the silence of heaven. I became obsessive about my prayers. If Allah wasn't answering, maybe I wasn't praying hard enough. Wasn't faithful enough. Wasn't pure enough. So I began performing wudu 5, 6, 7 times a day. I prayed all 5 required prayers plus every voluntary prayer I could find in the books. Tahajjud at 3 a.m. Duha mid-morning. Istikhara prayers begging for guidance about the marriage, though the marriage wasn't really a choice I got to make. I fasted. Not just Ramadan, but Mondays and Thursdays. Sometimes I'd fast 3 days in a row, drinking only water, until my mother noticed I was getting too thin and forced food down my throat while my aunts held my arms. You'll look sickly at your wedding, she hissed, tears streaming down her face. Stop this madness. Stop making everything harder. But I couldn't stop. Because if I stopped trying to reach Allah, I had to face the possibility that he had never been there at all. I memorized more Quran. I already knew 15 surahs by heart, but I pushed myself to learn more. Al-Kahf. Yasin. Al-Mulk. I would recite them over and over, rocking back and forth on my prayer mat, my voice cracking, my throat raw, waiting, begging, for something to shift. Some feeling. Some warmth. Some presence that would tell me I wasn't alone. Nothing. Just my own voice bouncing off the walls of my bedroom, mocking me. 73 days until the wedding. My father summoned me to his study. This was unusual. He barely acknowledged my existence most days, let alone called me to his private space. I walked through the palace corridors with my heart hammering, my hands ice-cold despite the desert heat that leaked through the air conditioning. His study smelled like oud and leather and power. The walls were lined with books he never read, just displays of wealth, knowledge as decoration. He sat behind a massive desk made of dark wood, his face illuminated by the green-shaded lamp that made him look even more like a villain from the movies I was never allowed to watch. "Sit," he commanded. "Not please sit or have a seat. Just sit." Like I was a dog. I sat. He didn't look up from the papers he was reviewing for a full 2 minutes. This was a power play. Making me wait. Making me small. I stared at my hands folded in my lap and tried to keep breathing. "Finally, I hear you've been crying." My heart stopped. Who told him? Which servant? Which sister? "I'm not crying, Baba," I lied. My voice sounded thin even to my own ears. "Don't lie to me." His eyes lifted, and the deadness in them made me want to run. "You've been crying. Refusing food. Making yourself sick. This is disrespectful. To me. To Khalid. To this family. I'm just nervous, Baba. The wedding is. The wedding is an honor." His voice cut through my excuse like a blade. Khalid could have chosen anyone. Any girl from any family. And he chose you. Do you understand how fortunate you are? Fortunate. The word tasted like poison. "Yes, Baba. I don't think you do." He leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled under his chin. "Let me be clear, Noor. This marriage will happen. You will smile. You will obey. You will be grateful. And if you do anything, to embarrass this family or disrespect Khalid, I will personally ensure you regret the day you were born." He wasn't speaking metaphorically. The threat in his voice was real. Physical. Final. "Do you understand me?" "Yes, Baba." "Good. Now get out of my sight." I stood on shaking legs and walked out. I made it halfway down the corridor before my knees gave out and I collapsed against the wall, my whole body trembling. A passing servant, an Ethiopian woman named Rahel who had kind eyes, helped me back to my room. She didn't ask questions. She just held my arm and whispered, "Breathe, Habibti. Just breathe." But I didn't want to breathe. I wanted to disappear. 51 days until the wedding. The wedding preparations consumed the palace. Designers came to measure me for my dress, the one Khalid had chosen, white and gold and so heavy I could barely stand in it. Caterers presented menu options. Florists brought samples. Event planners discussed lighting and seating and how many guests would witness my destruction. Everyone acted like this was beautiful. Joyful. Blessed. I felt like I was planning my own funeral. At night, I would lie in bed and imagine ways to escape. Could I run away? No, where would I go? I had no passport, no money of my own, no male guardian willing to help me. Women don't just leave in Saudi Arabia. We don't have that freedom. Could I refuse at the altar? They'd drag me through it anyway, or worse. Could I kill myself? That thought stayed longer than it should have. I started researching how much of my medication I'd need to take. Which combination would be quickest, least painful. I wrote 3 different suicide notes and burned them all, terrified someone would find them. The only thing that stopped me from actually doing it was the terror of hell. Because if Allah was real, if there was a judgment day, suicide was an unforgivable sin. I'd burn forever. And if I was going to burn anyway, at least I should try every other option first. So I prayed. Again. Desperately. 33 days until the wedding. I added something new to my prayers. I started asking Allah to kill me. Not by my own hand, I wasn't brave enough for that, but maybe an accident. A car crash. A sudden illness. Anything. Just let me die before I have to walk down that aisle. Let me die before Khalid touches me with those damp, hot hands. Let me die with some small piece of myself still belonging to me. Ya Allah, please. I'm begging you. If you're real, if you're merciful, if you care at all, take my life. I give it to you. Just take it. Please. I said this prayer every single night for 2 weeks. I woke up every single morning, still alive, still trapped. 28 days until the wedding. Something inside me shattered. I can't explain it better than that. It was like a glass wall I'd been holding up my entire life just broke. And behind it was a rage so deep and so pure I didn't recognize myself anymore. I was angry at my father. At Khalid. At my mother for her cowardice. At my culture for treating women like livestock. At the whole sick system that called this honor and blessing and God's will. But mostly, I was angry at Allah. I stopped praying. Not gradually. Not with deliberation. I just stopped. I didn't perform wudu. I didn't unroll my prayer mat. When the call to prayer echoed from the mosque near our palace, that haunting, beautiful sound that had structured my entire life, I ignored it. The first time I missed far prayer intentionally, I waited for something terrible to happen. Lightning. Punishment. Some sign of divine anger. Nothing. The second time, I felt a sick sense of relief. He wasn't watching. He'd never been watching. By the end of the week, I had missed every prayer, and the silence from heaven was exactly the same as when I'd been praying myself raw. What did that tell me? That Allah either didn't exist, or didn't care, or was so cruel that he enjoyed watching me suffer. Any of those options meant I was completely alone. My mother noticed. Of course she noticed. She cornered me in the bathroom, one of the only places we could speak semi-privately, and grabbed my arms hard enough to leave bruises. What are you doing? Her voice was a harsh whisper. I haven't heard you pray in days. Are you trying to bring a curse on this family? Maybe we're already cursed, Ummi. The words came out flat. Dead. Maybe we've been cursed our whole lives and we just keep pretending we're blessed. She slapped me. Hard. My head snapped to the side, and I tasted blood where my teeth cut my cheek. Don't you ever speak like that again, she hissed. Fear Allah, Noor. Fear him and submit. It's the only way to survive. I touched my bleeding mouth and looked at her, really looked at her. This woman who had given birth to me. Who had braided my hair when I was small. Who had sung me lullabies in Arabic about birds and gardens and freedom she'd never known. I did fear him, Ummi, I said quietly. I feared him and obeyed him and begged him for help. And he was silent. So either he's not there, or he doesn't care. Either way, fear doesn't matter anymore. She backed away from me like I was diseased. Like my words were contagious. You're going to hell, she whispered. I'm already there. 19 days until the wedding. I had given up. Completely. I stopped eating unless forced. Stopped speaking unless spoken to. Stopped existing in any meaningful way. I was a ghost in my own body, just waiting for the final end. The servants whispered that I was possessed by jinn. My sisters avoided me. My father sent the family imam to perform ruqya, Quranic exorcism, over me. The old man recited verses and sprinkled water on my head while I sat there, numb, feeling nothing. The jinn are strong in this one, he told my father afterward. I heard them through the door. She needs to be bound to a righteous man quickly. Marriage will cure her. A husband's authority will cast out the demons. I almost laughed. They thought I was possessed because I wouldn't accept my own destruction quietly. Maybe I was possessed. Possessed by the truth that this life was a prison, that this God was silent, that nothing I did mattered because the ending was already written. 14 days until the wedding. I started sleeping 18 hours a day. Sleep was the only escape I had left. In my dreams, sometimes I could fly. Sometimes I was someone else, somewhere else, a girl with choices, with freedom, with a voice that mattered. Then I'd wake up. And the walls would still be there. The countdown would still be ticking. Khalid would still be waiting. 7 days until the wedding. I stood at my window at midnight, looking out at the city lights, and I said my last prayer to Allah. Not begging this time. Not bargaining. Just truth. If you're real and you let this happen to me, then you're not who they say you are. You're not merciful. You're not loving. You're not just. You're as dead as my Father's eyes. And I want nothing to do with your paradise if this is what you call blessing. I waited for lightning. For judgment. For something. Still nothing. Fine, I whispered into the darkness. If you won't save me, maybe someone else will. I didn't know who. I didn't know how. I didn't even know if I really believed rescue was possible. But that tiny seed of defiance, that whisper of maybe someone else, was about to crack open my entire world. Because while Allah had been silent, someone else had been listening. Someone who had been waiting for me to stop looking up at an empty sky and start looking somewhere else. Somewhere I'd been taught my entire life to never, ever look. The book came from the most unlikely person in the world, Khalid's driver. His name was Samuel. A Filipino man in his mid-50s with gray at his temples and the quietest demeanor I'd ever seen. He'd been driving for the family for almost a decade, and I'd barely spoken 10 words to him in all that time. Drivers were invisible, furniture with heartbeats. We didn't acknowledge them beyond basic commands. But Samuel saw everything. 6 days before the wedding, he was assigned to drive me to my final dress fitting. My mother was supposed to accompany me, but she'd caught a cold, or maybe she just couldn't bear to look at me anymore. So it was just me in the back of the black Mercedes, Samuel silent in the front, the privacy screen partially down because we both knew there were cameras in the car. Always cameras. Always watching. We were stopped at a red light when he spoke. His voice was so quiet I almost missed it. Miss Noor, I'm going to drop something on the floor of the back seat. Please don't react. Just pick it up when you get out. My heart started pounding. What? Please. Don't speak. Just trust me. The light turned green. We drove on. I sat there paralyzed, my mind racing. Was this a trap? Was Samuel testing my loyalty? Was my father behind this? When we arrived at the boutique, Samuel got out and opened my door like always. As I stepped out, I saw it on the floor mat where my feet had been, a small package wrapped in brown paper, no bigger than my hand. I looked at Samuel. His eyes met mine for just a second, and I saw something there I'd never seen in any of the men in my life: kindness. Real kindness. The kind that costs something. For your wedding, he said loudly, for the cameras. A gift from my family. Open it privately. I picked it up with shaking hands and slipped it into my bag. The dress fitting took 2 hours. I stood like a mannequin while 3 women pinned and tucked and adjusted the dress that felt like a wedding gown and a shroud at the same time. I smiled when required. Said yes, it's beautiful when prompted. The whole time, the package in my bag felt like it was burning through the leather. When I finally got back to the palace, I went straight to my room and locked the door. My hands trembled so badly I could barely unwrap the brown paper. Inside was a book. Small. Black leather. Gold edges on the pages. And on the cover, in English and Arabic, the Holy Bible, New Testament. I dropped it like it had burned me. For a full minute, I just stared at it on my bed, my heart hammering so hard I thought it would break through my ribs. This was the most forbidden thing that could exist in my room. More forbidden than drugs. More forbidden than alcohol. More dangerous than a bomb. If my father found this, Samuel would be deported. Or worse. And I didn't even want to think about what would happen to me. I should have burned it immediately. Should have torn it to pieces and flushed it down the toilet. should have called security and reported Samuel and proven my loyalty to my family, to Islam, to everything I'd been taught since birth. Instead, I picked it up. The leather was soft under my fingers. Worn. Someone had read this book many times. I could tell from the way the spine cracked open naturally, from the faint pencil marks in the margins, from the smell of old paper and devotion. Why would Samuel risk everything to give this to me? What could possibly be in this book that was worth his job, his safety, maybe his life? I opened to a random page. Matthew, chapter 11. My English was good. I'd had tutors my whole life, so I could read it easily. My eyes fell on verse 28, and the words seemed to glow on the page. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Something cracked in my chest. I slammed the book shut. Too dangerous. Too frightening. This was shirk, the unforgivable sin of putting anyone equal to Allah. Jesus was just a prophet, I'd been taught. A good man, but not God. Never God. To claim he was God was blasphemy worthy of eternal hellfire. But that verse. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened. I was weary. I was so desperately, crushingly weary. I was burdened with a wedding I didn't want, a husband I feared, a father who hated me, a God who ignored me. I was drowning in burdens. And someone, this Jesus, was saying come to me? I hid the Bible in the false bottom of my jewelry box, the same place I'd later keep it when my father found it. Then I lay on my bed and stared at the ceiling and tried to convince myself to forget it existed. I lasted 3 hours. At 2 a.m., when the palace was silent and even the guards were drowsy, I retrieved the Bible and turned on the small reading light by my bed. I opened it again, this time from the beginning. Matthew, chapter 1. The genealogy of Jesus. Names I'd never heard, a lineage traced back through broken people and unlikely heroes. I skimmed through, impatient, until I reached chapter 5. The Sermon on the Mount. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. I read it 3 times. 4 times. 5. This was the opposite of everything I'd been taught. In my world, the powerful inherited the earth. The loud, the strong, the men with authority and weapons and money. The meek got crushed. The mourning got ignored. The poor in spirit were told to be grateful for their suffering because it would earn them paradise later. But Jesus said they were blessed now. Not later. Now. I kept reading. I couldn't stop. Chapter after chapter, I devoured his words like a starving person finding bread. And with every page, something inside me was waking up. Something I'd thought was dead. Hope. Jesus healed the sick. He touched lepers when everyone else ran away. He spoke to women, actually spoke to them, listened to them, valued them. He defended an adulteress from being stoned. He let a prostitute wash his feet with her tears. He called the religious leaders hypocrites and snakes. He ate with sinners. He loved the unlovable. He was nothing like Allah. Nothing like the God I'd been praying to my whole life. Allah was distant. Transcendent. Unknowable. Demanding. You obeyed him or you burned. You submitted or you suffered. Fear was the foundation of everything. But Jesus. Jesus said, come to me. Jesus said, I call you friends. Jesus touched people. Wept with people. Felt their pain. This was dangerous. This was heresy. This was the most beautiful thing I'd ever encountered. 5 days before the wedding. I read through the night and into the morning. When the call to far prayer echoed across the city, I didn't get up. I kept reading. Mark. Luke. John. In John chapter 8, I found the story of the woman caught in adultery. The religious men wanted to stone her, it was the law, they said. She deserved death. And Jesus knelt in the dirt and said, "Let him who is without sin cast the first stone." One by one, they walked away. Then Jesus looked at her, this woman everyone said deserved to die, and said, "Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." I started crying. Silent tears streaming down my face, dripping onto the pages. This Jesus didn't condemn her. Didn't call her cursed. Didn't say she brought shame to her family. Didn't tell her to be grateful for whatever punishment men decided she deserved. He protected her. Defended her. Gave her a future. Who was this man? This prophet, or more than prophet? Who speaks to women like they're human beings? Who touches the untouchable? Who offers rest to the weary? 4 days before the wedding, I barely slept. Barely ate. Every spare moment, I was reading. My family thought I was finally accepting my fate, becoming quiet and compliant. They thought I was praying and preparing myself spiritually for marriage. I was. Just not to the God they thought. I read about Jesus feeding 5,000 people. Walking on water. Calming storms. Raising the dead. Every miracle made me whisper, "This is impossible. This is crazy." But something in my soul kept saying, "What if it's true?" In John chapter 10, Jesus said, "I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep." I had never heard of a God who dies for his people. A God who sacrifices himself instead of demanding sacrifices. A God who calls himself a shepherd, a humble, lowly position, instead of a king sitting on a distant throne demanding worship. Everything in my Islamic teaching said this was wrong. Corrupted. Changed from the real Injil that Jesus supposedly preached. Muslims were taught that the Bible had been altered, that Christians had made Jesus into God when he was just a prophet. But as I read his words, these red letters in my English translation, I kept thinking, these don't sound like the words of just a prophet. These sound like the words of someone claiming to be much, much more. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. A prophet doesn't talk like that. A prophet says, "Thus says the Lord." A prophet points to God. Jesus pointed to himself. That should have terrified me. Should have confirmed everything I'd been taught about Christian corruption and blasphemy. Instead, it made perfect sense. Because if God really loved people, really, truly loved them, wouldn't he come down? Wouldn't he become one of us? Wouldn't he suffer with us instead of just watching from heaven? Allah never came down. Allah never walked in dirt or felt hunger or knew what it meant to be human. But Jesus did. 3 days before the wedding, I reached the crucifixion. I knew the basics from Islamic teaching, that Jesus wasn't really crucified, that Allah made it look like he died but actually took him up to heaven, that someone else died in his place. Muslims don't believe Jesus died because that would mean Allah failed to protect his prophet. But the gospel accounts were so specific. So detailed. So visceral. They whipped him until his back was shredded. They shoved a crown of thorns into his skull. They nailed his hands and feet to wooden beams and raised him up to die slowly, suffocating, in front of a mocking crowd. And he could have stopped it. The man who calmed storms and raised the dead could have called down angels. Could have destroyed his enemies with a word. But he didn't. He let them kill him. Why? The answer was in John chapter 3, verse 16. I'd heard this verse before. It was famous even in Saudi Arabia, always used to mock Christians. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life. I read it 20 times. God loved the world. Not just believers. Not just the righteous. Not just men. The world. Everyone. And the proof wasn't in how we loved him. It was in how he loved us. Enough to die. I thought about the Kaaba in Mecca. The black stone that millions of Muslims circle every year, trying to earn favor, trying to get close to Allah. We circle and circle and circle, but the stone is just stone. It doesn't move toward us. But Jesus moved toward us. Came all the way down. Entered our suffering. Took our punishment. I closed the Bible and sat in the darkness of my room, and I felt something I'd never felt before in all my years of prayer and fasting and begging Allah. I felt loved. Not for what I could do. Not for how well I obeyed. Not conditional on my performance or my purity or my submission. Just loved. Jesus, I whispered into the darkness. I was terrified to say his name like this, like a prayer, like worship. Jesus, if you're real, if this is true, I need you to show me. Because I can't do this alone anymore. I can't marry Khalid. I can't survive in this prison. And if you're really who this book says you are, please. Please come for me. It wasn't an elegant prayer. It wasn't proper. I didn't know if I was doing it right. But for the first time in my life, I felt like someone was listening. 2 days before the wedding. I woke up with sunlight streaming through my window and a peace I couldn't explain. Everything was still the same, the wedding was still looming, Khalid was still waiting, my father still had power over every aspect of my life. But something had shifted. Like a door had opened somewhere in my soul, and fresh air was finally getting in. I opened the Bible again. This time to the resurrection. They put Jesus in a tomb. Sealed it with a stone. Posted guards. He was dead. Finished. Defeated. And then Sunday morning came. The stone was rolled away. The tomb was empty. And Jesus, alive, glorified, victorious, appeared to his followers and said, "Peace be with you." Death couldn't hold him. The grave couldn't keep him. Hell couldn't claim him. He conquered it all. And if he could do that, maybe he could save even me. That night, I made my decision. I didn't fully understand it. I didn't have all the answers. I didn't know what it would cost me or where it would lead. But I knelt beside my bed, not on a prayer mat facing Mecca, just on my knees on the carpet, and I prayed to Jesus. I believe you're real. I believe you died for me. I believe you rose again. I don't know what happens next, but I'm yours. Save me. Please. However you want. Whenever you want. I trust you. The words were barely out of my mouth when I felt it. A presence. Warm. Close. Real. Not the distant, cold, judging presence I'd imagined when I prayed to Allah. This was intimate. Personal. Like someone was in the room with me. Like arms I couldn't see were wrapping around me. Like a voice I couldn't quite hear was whispering, "I've got you. You're mine. And I'm going to show everyone." I started sobbing. Not in despair this time. In relief. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't alone. Tomorrow was one day before my wedding. And I had no idea that Jesus was about to do something so impossible, so public, so undeniable, that it would shatter everything my family believed. One day before the wedding. I woke up at dawn, and the first thing I did was reach for the Bible under my pillow. I'd been sleeping with it there, hidden beneath layers of silk, close enough to feel. My fingers touched the leather cover, and I felt that same warmth, that presence that had wrapped around me the night before. Jesus, I whispered into the quiet of my room, I need to know this is real. I need to know you're really with me. Because today is going to be impossible. Today was the henna party. The traditional pre-wedding celebration where all the women would gather, decorate my hands and feet with intricate designs, sing songs, celebrate my joyous union with Khalid. It was the final checkpoint before tomorrow's ceremony. The last moment I could still pretend to be the obedient princess they needed me to be. I opened the Bible randomly, letting it fall open where it would. My eyes landed on Isaiah 43 verse 2. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned, the flames will not set you ablaze. Walk through fire. Don't be burned. I didn't know then how literal those words would become. The henna party started at 4 p.m. 70 women packed into the grand ballroom, aunts, cousins, family friends, wives of important men, daughters of royalty. They wore their finest abayas in emerald and burgundy and royal blue, their faces painted, their laughter shrill and performative. I wore white and gold, the bride's colors. My hair was styled in elaborate braids woven with tiny diamonds. My makeup made me look older, more resigned. More like a woman accepting her fate. But under my dress, pressed against my heart, was a single page I'd torn from the Bible. Psalm 91. I'd folded it into a tiny square and tucked it into my bra where no one would find it. My secret armor. You look beautiful, Habibti, my mother said, but her eyes were sad. She knew what I was walking into. She'd walked into it herself 3 decades ago when she was married to my father at 16. The henna artist was already set up, an older Syrian woman known for her intricate designs. She gestured for me to sit, and I placed my hands on the cushion table while women crowded around, chattering, taking photos, posting to their private social media accounts. The henna was cold on my skin. The scent was earthy, organic, familiar. The artist worked in silence, her hands steady and sure, creating patterns that looked like lace made of rust-colored ink. These designs will bring you fertility, one aunt announced loudly. Many sons, inshallah. And obedience to your husband, another added with a laugh. My stomach churned. The designs crept up my arms like beautiful chains. Flowers and geometric patterns and symbols I didn't understand. Everyone said they were gorgeous. All I could see were handcuffs made of tradition. The party continued around me. Women sang traditional songs. Drums beat rhythms that echoed in my chest. Plates of sweets circulated, baklava dripping with honey, dates stuffed with nuts, kunafa that melted on the tongue. I couldn't eat any of it. My throat had closed. Smile, Noor, someone called out, pointing a phone at me. This is your happy day. I smiled. The muscles in my face felt like they were cracking. 7 p.m. The party was reaching its peak. Someone had started the dabka, the traditional line dance. Women held hands and stomped and kicked in synchronized movements, their ululations piercing the air. I excused myself to use the bathroom. No one questioned it, the bride was expected to be emotional, overwhelmed. I walked quickly through the corridor, my henna-covered hands held carefully away from my dress, and locked myself in the private bathroom attached to my mother's suite. I stared at myself in the mirror. The girl looking back at me was a stranger. Beautiful. Decorated. Dead-eyed. Jesus, I whispered, my voice breaking. I can't do this. I can't go back out there and pretend. I can't marry him tomorrow. Please. You said you'd be with me in the fire. Where are you? Silence. My chest tightened. Was I crazy? Had I imagined that presence last night? Was the Bible just another false hope, another silent God who couldn't help me? Then I heard it. Not out loud, not with my ears. But somehow louder than any sound I'd ever heard. A voice that seemed to come from inside my chest and outside the universe at the same time. Go to sleep tonight. I will come. I froze, my hands gripping the edge of the marble sink. What? I whispered. Trust me. Go to sleep. I will come. My legs almost gave out. I slid down to the floor, my expensive dress pulling around me, my henna-covered hands shaking. That was his voice. I knew it the way you know your own heartbeat. It wasn't my imagination. It wasn't wishful thinking. Jesus had just spoken to me. I don't know how long I sat there on that bathroom floor, crying and laughing at the same time, my makeup ruining, my careful facade crumbling. Someone knocked on the door eventually. "Noor? Are you all right?" "Yes," I called back, my voice surprisingly steady. "Just overwhelmed. I'll be out in a moment." I stood, washed my face, fixed my makeup as best I could, and walked back into that party with my head high. Because I had a promise now. A real one. From someone who actually kept his word. I just had to make it through the next few hours. The party ended at 11 p.m. The women kissed my cheeks and congratulated me and told me tomorrow would be the best day of my life. I smiled and nodded and thanked them, and the whole time I was thinking, tomorrow, Jesus is going to do something. Tomorrow, everything changes. I walked back to my bedroom in a daze. My sisters were already asleep in their rooms. My mother had retreated to her suite, exhausted from playing hostess. The palace was quiet except for the distant sound of guards talking at their posts. I closed my bedroom door and locked it. Then I carefully peeled off the elaborate dress, removed the jewelry, wiped off the makeup. I took a shower, careful not to smudge the henna that was already drying on my hands and feet. When I was finally clean and wearing simple pajamas, I retrieved the Bible from its hiding place. I read Psalm 91 again, the same passage I'd carried against my heart all day. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. He will cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you will find refuge. You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day. Under his wings. Refuge. Safety. I'd never felt safe in my entire life. But tonight, in this room, with a wedding looming tomorrow that would destroy me, I felt safe. Because he promised he would come. I turned off the lights, climbed into bed, and closed my eyes. My heart was racing. Part of me thought I'd be too anxious to sleep. Tomorrow was my wedding day, and I still had no plan for escape, no strategy, no human solution. But the moment my head hit the pillow, a peace like a heavy blanket settled over me. And I fell asleep instantly. I don't know what time it was when I woke up. The room was dark. The clock on my wall had stopped, the hands frozen at 3:33. Later, I'd learned that was the exact moment he came. But time didn't matter because I wasn't alone. There was light in my room. Not from any lamp or window. It was coming from him. He was standing at the foot of my bed. I should have been terrified. A stranger in my locked room in the middle of the night should have sent me screaming. But terror was the furthest thing from what I felt. I felt known. Completely, absolutely known. He was tall, though not impossibly so. Maybe 6 feet. His skin was olive-toned, Middle Eastern like mine, not the pale European Jesus from the paintings. His hair was dark and fell past his shoulders. He wore a simple white robe that seemed to glow from within, like the fabric itself was made of light. But it was his eyes that undid me. Brown. Deep. Endless. And when he looked at me, really looked at me, I felt like he was seeing everything. Every secret. Every sin. Every moment of pain. Every prayer I'd ever prayed. Every tear I'd ever cried. Every thought I'd ever hidden. And instead of condemnation, there was love. Pure, overwhelming, devastating love. I sat up slowly, my body trembling. I couldn't speak. Couldn't form words. I could barely breathe. He smiled. And that smile, if you've never seen Jesus smile at you, I can't explain it. It's like the sun rising after a lifetime of darkness. It's like being told you're home when you didn't know you'd been lost. Noor. He said my name, and it sounded like a blessing instead of a burden. My daughter. My beloved. Do you know me? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Jesus, I whispered. Yes. He moved closer, and the light moved with him, filling the room with warmth. I heard every prayer you ever prayed. Even when you thought no one was listening, I was there. But, Allah, I was praying to. You were praying to a father. His voice was gentle but firm. And I am the only way to the Father. Every true prayer you ever prayed reached me, because I am the one who hears. I am the one who answers. I am the one who loves you. He sat on the edge of my bed, Jesus, the Son of God, sitting on my bed like a friend, like family, and he held out his hand. May I? I didn't understand what he was asking, but I nodded. He took my henna-covered hand in his. His palm was scarred. A round, terrible scar in the center where a nail had been driven through. I gasped. Yes, he said quietly. I died for you, Noor. For this moment. For your freedom. I bore the nails so you wouldn't have to bear the chains. Why? The word came out broken. Why would you do that for me? I'm nothing. I'm just a girl who's made mistakes and doubted in. You are my treasure. He said it with such conviction that I had no choice but to believe him. You are worth everything to me. Every drop of blood I shed. Every moment of suffering. You are worth it. I collapsed against him, sobbing into his shoulder, and he held me. Jesus held me. His arms were strong and real and safe, and I could feel his heartbeat, steady, strong, alive. I don't want to marry him, I cried. Please don't make me marry him. You won't. His voice was absolute. Tomorrow, I will show my power. I will prove to everyone who I am. And you will walk out of that ceremony free. But Noor, he pulled back slightly, his hands on my shoulders, his eyes locked on mine. It will cost you everything. What do you mean? Your family will reject you. Your name will be erased. Your wealth, your position, your safety, all gone. You will leave with nothing but me. Are you willing? I thought about my mother. My sisters. The palace. The life I'd known, as painful as it was. Then I looked at his face. At the scars on his hands. At the love in his eyes. Yes, I whispered. You're enough. You're more than enough. He smiled again, and this time it was brighter. Triumphant. Then watch what I will do. When your father presents the Quran tomorrow, when Khalid reaches for your hand, when everyone expects you to submit, I will move. And they will know. They will all know that I am Lord. What will you do? You'll see. But Noor, his voice became more serious. After tomorrow, you must run. I have prepared a way for you. Samuel knows. He will help. Trust him. And trust me. I do. I trust you. Good. He stood, and the light intensified. Now sleep, beloved. Rest in me. Tomorrow, your liberation begins. Wait, I reached for him, desperate. Don't leave yet. Please. He bent down and kissed my forehead. His lips were warm, and where he kissed me, I felt peace sink into my bones. I'm never leaving, Noor. Even when you can't see me, I'm there. In the fire. In the flood. In every moment. You are mine, and I am yours. Forever. The light grew brighter, so bright I had to close my eyes. And when I opened them again, he was gone. But the room still smelled like something I can only describe as heaven. Flowers and incense and something clean and pure and perfect. And on my forehead, where he'd kissed me, my skin was warm. I lay back down, my whole body trembling, my mind trying to process what had just happened. Jesus had been in my room. Not a dream. Not a vision. Him. Actually him. I'd touched his scars, heard his voice, felt his embrace, and he promised he would save me tomorrow. I closed my eyes and whispered, "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." And I slept like I'd never slept before, deep and dreamless and safe, knowing that when I woke up, my entire life was about to explode. But I wouldn't be facing it alone. The King of Kings had my back. And tomorrow, everyone would know it. The morning of my wedding day, I woke up with supernatural peace and absolutely no plan. I didn't know what Jesus was going to do. I didn't know when. I didn't know how. All I knew was that he promised he would move, and I had to trust him completely. No backup plan. No escape route I could see. Just blind, terrifying, exhilarating faith. The palace erupted into chaos before I even got out of bed. I could hear it through my door, servants rushing, my mother shouting orders, my sisters giggling nervously. Today was the day. In 6 hours, I would become Khalid's wife. Except I wouldn't. Because Jesus said so. I got out of bed and looked at myself in the mirror. The henna on my hands and feet had dried to a deep reddish brown. The designs were beautiful and intricate and looked exactly like the chains they represented. But on my forehead, where Jesus had kissed me, there was a mark. A small, light mark, almost like a faint scar or birthmark that hadn't been there before. It was barely visible, but I could see it. And somehow, I knew this was his seal. His signature. His way of saying mine. I touched it gently and whispered, "I'm yours. Do what you need to do." My mother burst into my room without knocking. Privacy wasn't a concept I was entitled to. She was already dressed in a formal emerald green abaya embroidered with gold, her makeup perfect, her face a mask of forced joy. "Why aren't you up? The makeup artist is here. Hairstylist is waiting. We have 4 hours, Noor, 4 hours. Get in the shower now." "Yes, Ummi." I moved like a robot through the preparations. They stripped me, scrubbed me, oiled my skin with rose and jasmine until I smelled like a garden. They sat me down and pulled my hair until my scalp ached, creating elaborate updo with fresh flowers woven through. They painted my face, foundation, contour, dramatic eye makeup with gold shimmer, deep red lipstick. I looked like a bride. I felt like a warrior suiting up for battle. The dress came next. The one Khalid had chosen. White silk and gold embroidery, so heavy with beading that it took 3 women to lift it. Long sleeves. High neck. Modest and suffocating. A cage made of expensive fabric. They fastened it with what felt like 1,000 tiny buttons up my back. Each one clicked into place like a lock. But I wasn't afraid. Because I kept hearing his voice in my mind, "I will show my power. They will all know." The jewelry came last. A gold necklace so heavy it hurt my neck. Matching earrings. Bangles up both arms. A tikkah across my forehead that hid the small mark where Jesus had kissed me, but I could still feel it there, warm, present, real. "Beautiful," my mother breathed, and for a second I saw real sadness in her eyes. "You look like a queen." "I look like a sacrifice," I said quietly. Her face hardened. "Don't start. Not today. Today you smile. Today you obey. Today you make this family proud." "What if I told you I don't believe anymore?" The words came out before I could stop them. "What if I told you Allah isn't who we think he is?" She moved so fast I didn't see it coming. Her hand cracked across my face, smearing the makeup, leaving a red mark on my cheek. "You will not speak blasphemy in this house." Her voice was a harsh whisper, terrified someone would hear. "You will not destroy this family with your madness. Now fix your face and get ready. The cars leave in 30 minutes." She stormed out. I touched my stinging cheek and looked at myself in the mirror. The makeup was ruined on one side. I looked broken. Cracked. Good, I thought. Let them see the cracks. Let them see I'm not doing this willingly. But I fixed the makeup anyway. Because I needed to get to that ceremony. I needed to be there when Jesus showed up. The wedding was at the Grand Masjid, one of the most prestigious mosques in Riyadh. 1,500 guests. Royal family members. Religious leaders. Politicians. Cameras everywhere. This was a society wedding, the kind that would be talked about for years. I rode in a separate car from the men, surrounded by my mother, sisters, and aunts. They chattered nervously. I stared out the window at the city passing by and prayed silently. Jesus, I trust you. I don't know what you're going to do, but I trust you. Please let it be soon. Please don't let him touch me. Please. The mosque was breathtaking, white marble and gold accents, massive chandeliers, intricate calligraphy covering the walls. They led me to a private room where I would wait until the ceremony. Standard practice, the bride doesn't attend her own wedding contract signing. The men do that. The imam. The fathers. The groom. They sign papers and recite verses and agree on my value like I'm livestock being sold. Then, only after the contract is signed, they bring me out for the public ceremony where I'm supposed to accept it. But I decided this morning, I wasn't going to accept anything. Even if Jesus didn't show up, though I knew he would, I was going to say no. Out loud. In front of everyone. I'd rather die free than live as Khalid's property. I sat in that private room for 45 minutes. I could hear the ceremony starting in the main hall. Male voices reciting Quran. The imam's voice amplified through speakers. The rustling of papers. The signing. They were doing it. Right now. Without me. Making me Khalid's wife while I sat in this room like furniture waiting to be delivered. My mother came to get me. It's time. Has the contract been signed? Yes. You're married. Now we do the public acceptance ceremony. Come. Married. Without my consent. Without my voice. Without my choice. Rage burned in my chest, but I kept my face calm. Let's go, I said. They led me through the corridor to the main hall. The women's section was separated from the men's by a decorative screen, but I could see through it well enough. 1,500 people. All eyes turning toward me as I entered. The men's section was on the other side. I could see my father sitting in the front row, his face expressionless. And next to him, Khalid. He wore traditional white robes and a gold-trimmed bisht that marked his status. His beard was oiled. His eyes were locked on me with an expression that made my skin crawl. Possession. Ownership. Hunger. Not today, I thought. Not ever. They positioned me on a raised platform so everyone could see. The imam stood at a microphone between the two sections. He was an older man with a long white beard and cold eyes. We are gathered today, he began in Arabic, his voice echoing through the hall, to witness the blessed union of Khalid bin Abdullah and Noor bint Abdullah. The contract has been signed according to Islamic law. Now we ask the bride to confirm her acceptance before Allah and these witnesses. This was it. The moment. The imam turned toward me. Noor bint Abdullah, do you accept this marriage contract with Khalid bin Abdullah as your husband, with the mahr agreed upon, according to the laws of Allah and his messenger? The hall went completely silent. 1,500 people holding their breath. I looked at Khalid through the screen. He was smiling. Confident. He thought this was done. I looked at my father. His eyes were black and dead, warning me. I looked at my mother. She was silently mouthing, "Say yes. Say yes." Then I looked up at the ceiling, at the beautiful calligraphy, at the chandeliers glittering with light, and I whispered, "Jesus, now would be good." I opened my mouth to speak. To say the word that would destroy everything. No. But before the sound could leave my lips, something happened. The Quran. The imam was holding it, a large, ornate Quran bound in green velvet and gold, sitting on a decorated stand in front of him. It was central to the ceremony, the physical representation of the authority under which this marriage was being conducted. And it burst into flames. Not metaphorically. Literally. Actual fire erupted from the Quran like it had been soaked in gasoline. Flames shot up 3 feet high, bright orange and gold, generating heat I could feel from where I stood 20 feet away. The imam screamed and stumbled backward. People in the front rows jumped up, shouting, scrambling away from the fire. But the fire didn't spread. It stayed contained around the Quran, burning intensely, impossibly, while the wooden stand beneath it didn't char. The carpet underneath didn't catch. Nothing else was touched. Just the Quran. Just the book that claimed to be the final authority. Just the words that said Jesus was only a prophet and not God. Burning. Chaos erupted. People were screaming, running, pulling out phones. Security guards rushed forward with fire extinguishers, but when they sprayed the flames, nothing happened. The foam hit the fire and evaporated. The fire kept burning. Khalid was on his feet, his face twisted in shock and rage. My father was shouting orders that no one could hear over the pandemonium. And I stood there, frozen on my platform, watching the flames, and I heard his voice again. Now, Noor. Run. Now. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed the heavy skirt of my wedding dress, yanked it up to my knees, and I ran. Off the platform. Through the women's section. Women tried to grab me, shouting my name, but I pushed past them. I kicked off the ridiculous heels they put on me and ran barefoot across the carpet toward the exit. Noor. My father's voice boomed behind me. Stop her. Security moved to block the door, but then... thunder. Inside the mosque. Loud, rolling thunder that shook the building like an earthquake. The chandeliers swayed. Ceiling tiles cracked. And the security guards froze, their faces pale with terror. I ran past them out the door, into the bright Riyadh sunlight, and I saw him. Samuel. He was standing next to a white car, not the family Mercedes, a different car, with the passenger door already open. Miss Noor. Now. Quickly. I ran to him, my dress trailing behind me, my bare feet slapping the hot pavement. I dove into the passenger seat, and he slammed the door and ran to the driver's side. Behind us, people were pouring out of the mosque. My father. Khalid. Guards. All shouting, all chasing. Samuel started the engine. Hold on, he said calmly. And he drove. Not fast. Not recklessly. Calmly. Deliberately. Like he had all the time in the world. And the strangest thing happened, no one could catch us. Cars tried to follow. I could see them in the side mirror, vehicles pulling out to chase us. But they kept running into problems. Flat tires. Engine failures. Red lights that stayed red impossibly long. One car just stopped, for no reason, the driver staring at his dashboard in confusion. It was like an invisible hand was blocking every attempt to reach us. Jesus is protecting us, Samuel said quietly, his eyes on the road. He told me this would happen. He told me exactly where to park, exactly when to be there. He told me you would come. Where are we going? My voice was shaking. To the safe house. There are people waiting for you. Christians. They'll get you out of the country. Samuel, if they find out you helped me. I know. He smiled, and there was such peace in his face. I've known the risk from the beginning. But Jesus told me, save my daughter. How could I refuse him? Tears streamed down my face. Thank you. Thank you. Thank Jesus, Miss Noor. He's the one who saved you today. I'm just the driver. We drove for 20 minutes through Riyadh, taking back streets and routes that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. Every time it looked like we'd hit traffic or get stopped, the way cleared. It was miracle after miracle after miracle, all strung together, getting me further and further from my Father's reach. Finally, Samuel pulled into the underground parking garage of a nondescript apartment building. He led me to a service elevator, up to the 4th floor, and knocked on a door in a specific pattern. The door opened. A woman stood there, Filipino, maybe 50, with kind eyes and a warm smile. Behind her I could see several other people, all watching me with expressions of joy and relief. "Welcome, sister," the woman said in English. "We've been praying for you. You're safe now. Come in. Come in." I stepped inside, and the door closed behind me. Safe. I was safe. I collapsed on the floor, my ridiculous wedding dress pulling around me, and I sobbed. Not in fear this time. In relief. In gratitude. In overwhelming, devastating awe. Jesus had done it. He'd burned the Quran in front of 1,500 witnesses. He'd shaken the mosque with thunder. He'd blocked my pursuers. He'd brought me out. He'd kept his promise. A man knelt beside me, older, with gray hair and a cross necklace visible at his collar. "Sister Noor, my name is Pastor Michael. We're going to get you out of Saudi Arabia. We have documents, a route, contacts. But first," he smiled gently, "would you like to pray? To thank the one who saved you?" I nodded, unable to speak. We all knelt there in that small apartment, these strangers who'd risked everything for me, who'd prayed for me, who'd prepared for my escape, and we prayed to Jesus. Not recited prayers. Not formal liturgy. Just talking to him like he was right there in the room with us. Because he was. I could feel him. That same presence from last night. Those same arms holding me. "Thank you," I whispered through my tears. "Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for proving you're real. Thank you for loving me enough to walk through fire for me." And in my heart, I heard his voice one more time. "You're mine, beloved. Now let's show the world what I can do with a surrendered heart." That fire in the mosque, it was all over the news within an hour. Videos. Photos. Witnesses testifying that the Quran spontaneously combusted, that nothing could put it out, that it burned completely to ash while nothing else was damaged. Some said it was a technical malfunction. An electrical fire. A prank. But the people who were there knew better. They'd seen God show up. And whether they wanted to admit it or not, they'd seen him declare his authority over everything they thought was untouchable. I'd walked into that mosque as Khalid's bride. I walked out as Christ's. And I was never going back. The safe house smelled like cardboard and instant coffee and hope. They gave me clothes, plain jeans, a long-sleeve shirt, a simple hijab to cover my hair so I wouldn't stand out. Someone helped me out of that wedding dress, all 15 pounds of silk and gold embroidery and broken dreams. We stuffed it in a garbage bag and shoved it in the closet like hiding evidence of a crime. I guess it was evidence. Evidence that I'd refused. Evidence that I'd run. Evidence that Jesus had shown up and shattered everything. Pastor Michael spread a map across the small kitchen table. There were 5 of us now, him, Samuel, the Filipino woman whose name was Grace, and 2 younger men, one Egyptian Christian named Yusuf, one Pakistani named David. All believers. All risking their lives to smuggle me out. "We have maybe 6 hours before your father figures out where you are," Pastor Michael said, his finger tracing a route on the map. "He has resources. Connections. Money. He'll tear this city apart looking for you. Where do I go?" My voice sounded strange to my own ears. Hoarse. Like I'd been screaming. "Jordan first. We have contacts at the border, Christian truck drivers who can hide you in cargo shipments. From Jordan, we'll get you to Lebanon. From Lebanon." He looked up at me. From Lebanon, we apply for asylum. Get you to Europe or America. Somewhere you can actually be free. How long will it take? If everything goes perfectly? 3 weeks. If things go wrong. He didn't finish the sentence. Grace brought me tea, hot, sweet, strong. I wrapped my hands around the cup and tried to stop shaking. Everything felt surreal. This morning I'd been putting on a wedding dress in a palace. Now I was sitting in a cramped apartment planning to flee my country with nothing but the clothes on my back. Your family is already on the news, Youssef said quietly, his phone screen glowing. He turned it toward me. It was a news report. Arabic headline, Royal Wedding Disrupted by Mysterious Fire, Bride Missing. And below it, a photo of my father at a press conference, his face carved from stone. My daughter has been kidnapped, he was saying to the cameras. We believe she was taken by extremists. Possibly foreign agents. We are offering a reward for any information leading to her safe return. Kidnapped. Not she ran. Not she refused. Kidnapped. Because admitting I chose to leave would mean admitting he'd lost control. Would mean admitting his daughter rejected Islam, rejected the marriage, rejected everything he'd built his life on. Better to call me a victim than admit I'd chosen freedom. There's a price on your head now, David said, his voice grim. $500,000 That's, what, 133,000 US? People will be looking for you. Especially people who need money. We need to move her tonight, Samuel said. Before word spreads. Before someone recognizes her. Pastor Michael nodded. Agreed. We leave at midnight. That gives us, he checked his watch, 4 hours to prepare. 4 hours. 4 hours until I left Saudi Arabia, possibly forever. 4 hours until I became a refugee, an exile, a woman without a country. But a woman who was free. Grace squeezed my hand. Are you okay, sister? Was I okay? I'd just watched God set a Quran on fire. I'd run from my own wedding. I'd abandoned my family, my identity, everything I'd ever known. In 4 hours I'd be smuggled across a border like contraband. I'm perfect, I said, and I meant it. For the first time in my life, I'm perfect. They cut my hair at 9 p.m. It's too recognizable, Pastor Michael explained, holding scissors. Your photos are everywhere now. Long black hair, distinctive features. We need to change your appearance. I sat in a chair in the bathroom while Grace stood behind me with the scissors. Each snip felt like cutting chains. Thick locks of black hair fell to the tile floor, hair that had taken years to grow, hair that had been brushed and oiled and decorated with flowers just this morning for my wedding. Gone. When Grace finished, I looked in the mirror. Short hair, barely past my chin. I looked different. Older. Harder. Like someone who'd been through fire and come out tempered steel. Beautiful, Grace said softly. You look free. We burned the hair in the kitchen sink. Watching it curl and blacken felt ceremonial, like a sacrifice. The old Noor was gone. The princess was dead. Whoever I was becoming, she was being born right now, in this tiny apartment, surrounded by people who loved Jesus more than their own safety. At 10 p.m., my phone rang. I'd turned it off after getting in Samuel's car, but I'd turned it back on briefly to check something. Big mistake. The moment it connected to the network, it rang. Mother. My thumb hovered over the answer button. Part of me wanted to hear her voice one more time. Wanted to explain. Wanted her to understand. Don't, Samuel said quietly. They're tracing the signal. Answer that call and they'll know exactly where you are. I let it ring. Then ring again. Then again. 12 missed calls. Then a text message. Noor, please. Your father is furious. Come home. We'll fix this. We'll say you were confused, overwhelmed. We'll postpone the wedding. Just come home. Please, Habibti. I'm begging you. Come home before something terrible happens. My eyes burned with tears. She didn't understand. There was no fixing this. There was no going back. I'd seen Jesus. I'd touched his scars. I'd watched him prove he was God by making fire bow to his will. How could I go back to pretending Allah was God when I'd met the real God face to face? I typed one message back. Ummi, I love you. But I can't come back. Jesus is real. He saved me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I'm free now. Finally free. I pray you'll understand one day. I hit send, then immediately turned the phone off and removed the SIM card. Samuel took both and smashed them with a hammer, then threw the pieces in separate trash bags. No more phones until you're out of the country, he said. They have technology. They have resources. We have to be smarter. At 11:30 p.m., we gathered in the living room for prayer. Pastor Michael read from Psalm 121, I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. He will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. We prayed over the journey. Over the route. Over the border guards and truck drivers and every person who would help along the way. We prayed protection over me. We prayed that Jesus would blind the eyes of my pursuers and open the way for my escape. And then we prayed something that made me start crying again. Lord Jesus, we pray for Noor's family. For her mother and sisters and father. We pray that what they saw today, that fire, that miracle, would haunt them. Would chase them. Would break through their hard hearts and make them ask questions. We pray they would encounter you the way Noor did. We pray for their salvation. I'd been so focused on escaping them that I hadn't thought about praying for them. But Jesus did. Jesus loved them. Even my father. Even Khalid. He died for them too. That's when I understood, my escape wasn't just about me being free. It was about showing them that there was a God more powerful than tradition, more real than religion, more loving than any system of rules could ever be. Maybe they'd never believe. But they'd never forget what they saw today. Midnight came. Youssef had brought a delivery van, the kind used for furniture or appliances. The back was empty except for blankets and water bottles and a small bag with some clothes and toiletries for me. You'll hide in the back, he explained. We'll put boxes around you to make it look like a normal delivery. If we get stopped, stay absolutely silent. Don't move. Don't breathe loud. Nothing. I nodded, my heart hammering. Grace hugged me tight. Jesus go with you, sister. We'll be praying every moment until we hear you're safe. Pastor Michael pressed something into my hand, a small cross necklace, simple silver, with a tiny scripture reference engraved on the back, John 8 verse 36. If the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed, he quoted. Don't forget that, Noor. No matter what happens next. You're free. He made you free. And no one can take that from you. I clutched the necklace to my chest. Thank you. All of you. You saved my life. Jesus saved your life, Samuel said with a smile. We're just the delivery service. I climbed into the back of the van. They arranged boxes around me, empty ones, light enough that they wouldn't crush me if they shifted, but enough to hide me from casual inspection. They left a gap so I could breathe, so I could see a sliver of light. Ready? Youssef called from the front. Ready. The van started. The garage door opened. And we pulled out into the Riyadh night. I lay there in the darkness, clutching that cross necklace, praying in whispers. Jesus, you got me this far. Please get me the rest of the way. Please protect these men who are risking everything. Please blind the eyes of anyone looking for me. Please, please, please. We drove for what felt like hours. I couldn't see anything except that sliver of light from between the boxes. Couldn't tell where we were or how far we'd gone. The van stopped and started in traffic. Turned corners. At one point we stopped for a long time and I heard voices, a checkpoint, and my heart nearly exploded with fear. But then we were moving again. 3 hours into the drive, the van stopped and I heard David's voice from the front, checkpoint ahead. Border Patrol. Everyone stay calm. This was it. The moment that would determine everything. I held my breath and pressed myself flat against the floor of the van, trying to become invisible. I could hear my heartbeat pounding in my ears, so loud I was sure the guards would hear it. The van rolled forward slowly. Stopped. A knock on the driver's window. Papers, a gruff voice said in Arabic. Shuffle of documents. Long pause. Too long. What are you transporting? Furniture, Yusuf said calmly. Delivery to Amman. Here's the manifest. Another pause. Then, open the back. Oh Jesus. Oh Jesus, please. I heard the back doors open. Light flooded in through the gaps in the boxes. Footsteps. Someone climbing into the van. A lot of boxes for one delivery. It's a whole household, sir. Family relocating. The guard was close. So close. I could hear his breathing. Could hear him shifting boxes, checking them. His boot was inches from my face. Jesus, I prayed silently. Please. Make me invisible. Make him blind. Please. The guard stood there for what felt like an eternity. Then. All right. Everything looks fine. Close it up. Wait. What? He'd looked right at where I was hiding. Had to have. There was no way he missed me. But he was walking away. The doors slammed shut. The van started moving again. When we were 5 minutes down the road, David started laughing, not mocking, but amazed laughter. He looked right at you, he said. I saw him through the mirror. He moved that box and looked right at where you were lying and his eyes just went blank. Like he couldn't see you. Like you weren't there. Another miracle. Another impossible intervention. Jesus hadn't just promised to be with me in the fire. He was literally blinding guards to get me across borders. We crossed into Jordan at 4 a.m. I didn't come out of hiding until we were 30 kilometers past the border, until Yusuf pulled into a rest stop and finally opened the doors. Welcome to Jordan, he said with a huge smile. You made it, sister. You're out. I climbed out of that van on shaking legs and looked around. Jordan. Not Saudi Arabia. Foreign soil. Free soil. And I fell to my knees on the pavement and sobbed. I'd lost everything. My family. My name. My country. My identity. The life I'd known for 23 years was gone, burned to ash like that Quran in the mosque. But I'd gained everything that mattered. I'd gained Jesus. I'd gained freedom. I'd gained truth. And I would never, ever trade that for the golden cage I'd left behind. So I told her. Right there in the grocery store, between the produce and the dairy section. I told her about the wedding. About praying to Allah and hearing nothing. About finding the Bible. About Jesus appearing in my room. About the fire. The fire at the royal wedding, she breathed. That was you? You're the princess who disappeared? Yes. Everyone says you were kidnapped. Brainwashed by Christian extremists. I was saved, I said firmly. By Jesus. He proved he was real. He proved he was God. And he set me free. That's not brainwashing. That's rescue. She stared at me for a long moment. Then, my husband hits me. And I pray to Allah every day to change him, to protect me. But nothing changes. I'm so tired. So tired. My heart broke for her. Jesus hears you. Jesus sees you. And he can save you too. He doesn't want you to stay in that. He wants to give you rest. How? Her voice cracked. How do I even? I can't just leave. I have no money, no passport, no. You start by praying. By asking Jesus if he's real. By reading the Bible. And if he calls you out like he called me out, he'll make a way. He always makes a way. I wrote my email address on a scrap of paper and gave it to her. If you want to talk more. If you want to know more. I'm here. You're not alone. She took the paper with shaking hands, shoved it in her purse, and walked away quickly. I don't know if she'll ever contact me. I don't know if that seed I planted will grow. But I planted it. Because Jesus did that for me. Samuel planted a seed by giving me that Bible, and now I get to plant seeds for others. That's my purpose now. That's why Jesus saved me. Not just so I could be free, but so I could tell others how to be free too. If you're watching this video right now, I need you to understand something. Jesus is real. Not as a prophet. Not as a good teacher. Not as a historical figure we respect from a distance. He's real. He's alive. He's God. And he's actively, right now, in this moment, reaching out to you. Maybe you're Muslim like I was, and you've been praying and hearing nothing. Maybe you're Hindu or Buddhist or atheist, and you've been searching for meaning, for purpose, for something that makes sense of this broken world. Maybe you're already Christian, but it's just religion to you, rules and rituals and church attendance, but you've never actually met him. Never felt his presence. Never experienced his love. I'm telling you, he's real. And he wants you. Not your performance. Not your perfection. Not your ability to earn his love through good deeds or right beliefs. He wants you. Just you. Broken, messy, confused, scared, desperate you. The same Jesus who appeared in my room will appear in your life if you ask him. Maybe not visibly, though he can if he wants to. But he will show up. He will prove himself. He will make himself known. All you have to do is ask. I'm talking to Muslims right now who are watching this and feeling that pull. That sense that maybe, just maybe, what you've been taught isn't the whole truth. That maybe Jesus is more than a prophet. You've been taught that Christians corrupted the Bible. But have you actually read it? Have you let Jesus speak for himself? You've been taught that Jesus was just a man, a messenger. But read what he said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. That's not prophet talk. That's God talk. You've been taught that Allah is merciful and loving. But have you ever felt that love? Or have you just felt fear? Fear of not being good enough, not praying enough, not obeying enough? Jesus doesn't want you to fear him. He wants you to know him. To love him. To rest in him. And I know what you're thinking, but if I leave Islam, my family will disown me. I'll lose everything. Maybe even my life. Yes. Maybe you will. I did. I lost my family. My country. My name. My inheritance. Everything. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because what I gained, who I gained, is worth infinitely more. Jesus said, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? I had the whole world. I was a princess. I had wealth and status and luxury. And my soul was dying. Now I have nothing by the world's standards. And my soul is alive. Thriving. Free. I'm talking to women right now who are trapped. Maybe not in a forced marriage like I was, but trapped in some way. Trapped in abuse. Trapped in a religion that says you're worth less because of your gender. Trapped in a culture that silences your voice. Jesus sees you. Jesus knows you. And Jesus can save you. He's the God who spoke to women when no one else would. Who valued them. Protected them. Elevated them. Who died for you just as much as he died for any man. You are not cursed. You are not worthless. You are not a burden. You are a daughter of the King of Kings. You are loved. You are valuable. You are seen. And if he could save me, a princess locked in a palace with guards and cameras and walls and the full weight of a royal family determined to control me, he can save you too. Call out to him. Right now. In your bedroom, in your bathroom, wherever you can find a moment alone. Say, Jesus, if you're real, show me. Save me. I need you. He will answer. I promise you. He will answer. I'm talking to Christians right now who are comfortable. Who've been following Jesus for years but you've gotten lukewarm. Complacent. You go to church, you pray before meals, you read your Bible sometimes, but there's no fire. No passion. No real relationship. Wake up. There are people dying without knowing Jesus. There are women being sold into marriages they don't want. There are children being abused in the name of God. There are millions of Muslims who've never actually heard the gospel, not the distorted version they've been taught to reject, but the real gospel. The good news that Jesus loves them and died for them and wants them to be free. Who's going to tell them if you don't? Who's going to risk if you won't? I left everything to follow Jesus. What are you willing to leave? Your comfort? Your reputation? Your safe, easy life? Jesus didn't call us to be safe. He called us to be faithful. To go. To tell. To love people enough to give them truth even when it costs us everything. If my story doesn't wreck you and rebuild you, then I don't know what will. And finally, I'm talking to you, yes, you, the person watching this right now who knows, deep in your soul, that this is your moment. You've been searching. Asking questions. Feeling that pull toward Jesus but resisting because of what it might cost. This is your invitation. Jesus is standing at the door of your heart right now, knocking. He's not breaking down the door. He's not forcing his way in. He's knocking. Gently. Patiently. Waiting for you to open it. All you have to do is say yes. It doesn't have to be eloquent. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have all the answers or understand all the theology. Just say, Jesus, I believe you're real. I believe you died for me. I believe you rose again. I'm a sinner. I need you. Save me. I'm yours. That's it. That's the prayer. Simple. Honest. True. And the moment you say it, the moment you mean it, everything changes. You become his. You're forgiven. You're clean. You're adopted into his family. You become a new creation, the old life gone, the new life begun. And yes, it might cost you. It will probably cost you. Following Jesus isn't easy. But I'm standing here, 18 months after losing everything, and I'm telling you, he is worth it. Every loss. Every tear. Every sacrifice. He is worth it. So I'm asking you right now, will you say yes? Will you open the door? Will you let Jesus save you the way he saved me? If you will, if you're ready, I want you to pray with me. Right now. Out loud if you can. Whispered if you have to. In your heart if you must. But pray with me. Jesus, I believe you're the Son of God. I believe you died on the cross for my sins. I believe you rose from the dead on the third day. I confess I'm a sinner. I've been living my own way, trusting my own gods, searching in all the wrong places. But I want you. I need you. I choose you. Come into my life. Save me. Change me. Make me yours. I surrender everything to you. I trust you. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for dying for me. Thank you for calling me your own. In Jesus' name, amen. If you just prayed that prayer, welcome to the family. You're my brother, my sister, my fellow heir with Christ. And your life just started. Really started. It won't be easy. I won't lie to you. Following Jesus cost me my family. It might cost you yours. It might cost you your comfort, your reputation, your safety. But what you gain, eternal life, real freedom, unshakable love, purpose that matters, is worth more than anything you could ever lose. I don't know what's going to happen to me next. I don't know if my family will ever speak to me again. I don't know if I'll ever be able to return to Saudi Arabia. I don't know if Khalid or my father are still looking for me, still offering that reward. But I know Jesus has me. I know He didn't save me just to abandon me. I know He has plans for my life, plans to use my story, my testimony, my freedom to help others find their freedom. Maybe you're part of that plan. Maybe you're watching this because Jesus wanted you to hear from someone who's been where you are. Who's felt what you feel. Who's escaped and survived and is thriving now because of Him. If that's you, please don't wait. Don't let another day go by trapped in a lie. Don't let fear keep you from the best decision you'll ever make. Jesus is calling you. Right now. Will you answer? The choice is yours. But I'm begging you, choose Him. Choose life. Choose freedom. Choose Jesus. Because He already chose you. He died for you. He rose for you. He's fighting for you. He's waiting for you. And He will never, ever let you go. My name is Noor. It means light. And Jesus, the light of the world, pulled me out of darkness and made me His. He can do the same for you. Don't wait. Say yes to Him today. If you prayed that prayer, here are your next steps. Get a Bible. Start reading the Gospel of John. Let Jesus speak to you directly through His Word. Find a church. Look for a Bible-believing church where you can worship with other believers and grow in your faith. If you're in danger, look for underground churches or online communities of former Muslims who follow Jesus. Get baptized. When it's safe, get baptized as a public declaration of your faith in Jesus. Tell someone. When it's safe, share your testimony. Let others know what Jesus has done for you. Stay connected. You're not meant to do this alone. Find other believers, online if necessary, who can encourage you, pray with you, and help you grow. Jesus saved you for a reason. Your life matters. Your story matters. Your freedom matters. Now go live like you believe it. In Jesus' name. Amen.